Good afternoon. It's about a minute after 12 now. So we have quite a few people in the meeting today. Welcome to Open House and our college planning seminar today. I'm happy to meet you. I'm Mary Iovini, and this is ISA, International STEM Academy, bringing this to you today. So let's get started. I'm excited to share all this great information with you today. Okay, so again, welcome. If some of you have just joined, thanks for joining. This is our first attempt at doing both our college planning seminar and our SAT strategy tips in one seminar. We appreciate everyone's valuable time, and we decided to put them all in one seminar for you today. So let's get started. How can you help your children during middle school and high school get ready for college? That is the biggest question that a lot of parents ask. And when should we start? When should we begin? As a family, you can take an active role in your child's education, but a supportive role. Children want to steer the ship the older they get, as you know. But as parents, we're trying to help them unlock their potential, and we want to make sure that we give them guidance to help them get there, but work on the process together. So we need to allow our children to create their own destiny. So we're going to, just like the sign says, we're going to try to provide them some help, some support, some advice and guidance, but taking a little bit of a step back the older that they get. And how can we do that? We can do that by building a strong foundation for our students, for our children. I myself had 4 girls growing up, and I know that's hard, especially through the middle school years. There's a lot of drama that goes on in middle school, and it takes away sometimes from academics. But they will get there and they will get through that. And it's really important for them to establish those friendships in middle school. It tends to help them. Research shows that strong friendships and strong emotional skills will help them in their academics as time moves forward. And if they have solid homework routines and efficient study habits and good time management, which of course you can provide that for them, a place where they can study, a time that they can study. Some students find it great to study right after school. Other students want to have a break. I was definitely a student that needed a break after school got over and needed to just kind of let go outside, and was more of an outside kid. And then after supper, I could go back to doing some work. So whatever works for your family and your child, that's what you want to do. But time management's important too. Sometimes students have a difficult time managing a big project or studying and getting ready for a quiz or a test. And you want to provide those layers of support so that they can manage their time during the school week. Cramming for a test last minute is not the best way to have time management. We want to help them to be organized, to get their work together, to have a strong notebook together, to how to divide that notebook out between their homework, their classwork, references that they need. For math, maybe they have all their formulas in one place. For English, they have some rubrics in there, maybe for how they do their annotations. And last but not least, that they can advocate for themselves as children. Studies show that the more you advocate for yourself, it creates more self-worth and self-esteem for your child. And certainly those critical thinking skills. At ISA, we have a full round of critical thinking skills for your child. We offer robotics, engineering, mathematics, English activities and projects. So your child will get a plenty of critical thinking skills within those topics. And let's move on to the next one. So we will be talking further about critical thinking skills in relationship to SATs. And I'm just going to mention that quickly while we're here at critical thinking. As you're thinking about college and which exam your child needs to take for their particular college, ACTs and SATs vary. SAT is definitely a more critical thinking exam. So today we won't be talking about the ACT, but we may be doing a seminar about that in the future. And my screen looks like it froze a little bit. So let me adjust that. The background here. Okay, there we go. Technology is fun sometimes. Okay, so we're unfrozen now, so we're looking pretty good. So parents often ask, when should we start looking for colleges and when do we start making those decisions? I would like to strongly suggest that you start looking at colleges in middle school. They're not in middle school, they're excited about going to high school. And then once they get to high school, they're excited about going to college. But I think that going to visit campuses when you're in middle school motivates you towards your future and helps you to be more of an academic student. I think it becomes a big transition when you transition from middle school to high school. I'm getting my middle schoolers ready over the next week to transition over to high school. And I think a lot of instructors and teachers miss the boat on that because they're feeling very anxious, even about how to get around the high school once they get there, because typically high schools are a lot bigger than middle schools. And certainly colleges will feel like they're going to swallow them up. So it's really important to visit campuses when you're in middle school too. You can go during a family vacation, just kind of make it seem normal, like, oh, look what's next door. Let's go visit Clemson, or let's go visit UConn, or let's go visit Caltech. So you can narrow down your choices by sophomore year. That's a 10th grade year here in the US, and maybe make your final selections by junior year, hopefully, which would be the 11th grade year. The 11th grade year is when your college is going to look at your grades during the fall of junior year. A lot of students think their senior year is the most important. It's not that it isn't, but they like to sneak in and take a look fall of junior year, which is when most students take their first SAT. They want to see what you're looking like in junior year. So a lot of people don't understand that colleges will go back to fall of junior year. So don't start accelerating your academics at the last minute. You want to keep them going all the time. So by following this process, by your senior year, you're ready to do your applications, your essays, your interviews, and get ready for the senior year. When you're in your senior year, you might have looked at a number of colleges and you're ready to make a final decision. You can call those colleges once you've narrowed it down to a half dozen or so and ask for a private tour. Those can be planned with fewer people on the campus, and you're going to get a more personalized viewpoint than going as a group. And sometimes your child or student is not going to feel as comfortable in a large group asking questions. And that second look can sometimes help them to make a firmer decision about where they want to go. And last but not least, we hear a lot of data being put out there by US News and World Report and many other data engines, so to speak. And what is tier 1, tier 2, tier 3? We hear so much about it. What does it really mean? So here at ISA, we're going to break that down for you. So tier 1 is some of them are the Ivy League schools, but not all. The Ivy League schools is a group of 8 schools, as you can see above: Brown, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, Penn, Princeton, and Yale, all located in the Northeast. Near me, I live in Connecticut. Also, tier 1 schools include Stanford, MIT, University of Chicago, Caltech, Vanderbilt, Johns Hopkins, and Rice. So people don't really understand the tier system, but this is a good map of where the tier 1 schools are located in the United States. Okay, although U Chicago, of course, is in Illinois, and Caltech's out in California. So people forget that we do have some tier 1 schools all around the country. It's just that, and of course, Duke is in South Carolina. All right. Yes, I have a question from Sora.
Surya.
Go ahead.
So I don't understand the tier one school. Does that mean like these colleges are the best or something?
Yes, they're usually in the top 5%. I'm going to break down the definition of that tier 1, what that means a little bit further after we go over tier 2 and tier 3. But yes, generally they're in the top 5%. You're in the top 5% of your class, and they're considered top 5% schools.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. So tier 2 skills. Tier 2 schools are also very good schools. They include Boston University, Boston College, Berkeley, Georgetown, New York University, Michigan Ann Arbor, University of Virginia, William and Mary, UCLA, to name a few, Tulane. So a number of different colleges you've seen, and also located in Georgia, Georgia Institute of Technology, or otherwise known as Georgia Tech. And then our tier 3 schools. I don't know why my slides don't want to advance today. It's a Zoom thing. I don't know why they're doing it, but they are. There we go. Tier 3. So tier 3, we have Penn State, Trinity University, the University of Maryland in College Park. We have Fordham, University of Florida, Texas Christian University, Texas A&M, and so on and so forth. UC Davis, which is out in California. Okay. And then let's break it down a little bit more. Tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So exemplary schools that meet proficiency standards, meaning that they go above and beyond just requiring their students to be proficient, right? So those are the top 5%. The next 15% layer of schools is the 15% and above. And then good would be 30%, and then fair is the next 30%. So there's a big range in between good and fair. And if you go and look at the data on US News and World Report, you'll see more data in there, okay? But in general, this is a definition, and I say that because US News and World Report's algorithm is pretty much a secret, but only with them that they use and the people that work there. But I have been able to put together somewhat of an algorithm that's pretty fair in assessing all the different schools. Okay, so And last but not least, to get ready, you want to be working with your school counselor. Start having those conversations. This says junior year, but of course, we're talking about college planning here. Students start having conversations with their guidance counselor in middle school. Um, they're talking about what courses they're going to take in high school. And believe it or not, they start tracking your child in middle school. And what does that mean when you get to high school? That means that as a freshman, are you going to start out taking honors geometry? Are you going to start out taking algebra 1 or honors algebra 1? Are you going to start taking regular algebra 1? Or are you going to be going into a regular standard just math 1 course? So it depends on what band you are in middle school. And you can tell that by what courses your child's enrolled in terms of mathematics in middle school, what track they're on. Okay, so for instance, I had 2 honors algebra 1 students. The ones that are scoring in the highest level during during honors algebra 1 are going to go to geometry honors. Some students that are on the cusp, not quite ready to go, might be asked to take a placement test. If their grade point average isn't quite where it needs to be, to see if they're ready for the material before they enter high school. And colleges, of course, have their own placement tests. Okay, one of the reasons that they use the SAT is to determine how ready students are for college. So you can start looking at colleges in your junior year to make those final decisions. And your college counselor can help you to find scholarships, financial aid, help you through your college applications. Although my personal experience with students is their college application process was difficult, and that counselors are only available at school for a certain amount of time. And that's where we come in and can help you go through the college application process. The federal form that everyone does, no matter how you're going to pay for college, every person that goes to college in the US is going to fill out the FAFSA form. Um, it's basically a way for them to determine what kind of scholarships and aid they can offer you. So you're filling out a federal form. You're filling out the CSS profile form, and typically if there's a divorce, usually both sides fill out the form, unless of course during the divorce proceedings, there's a split where one family member or the other is responsible for college and they're not sharing college expenses. And in that case, they'd only have to fill out one CSS, but usually 2 are filled out. You'll see your academic advisor at school, and the school counselors can help you, identify what you'll be best at. There's all kinds of career exams that you're going to take with your college counselor, and they're going to help direct you to the best career for you. Okay. So today was just an overview of what we have available at ISA in terms of seminars. Our seminar 2 is going to be talking more in depth about savings versus retirement. So parents are always concerned about how they go about saving for their child's education, whether maybe they're saving for high school, maybe they're going to go to a private school, and how do they apply to those private high schools, and what do the placement exams look like, which at ISA we have those placement exams and can give them to your child to get them ready and prepare them in a course to get ready for private school. And in addition to that, how are you going to go about saving? Because families are always worried about, well, we want to save for their education, but we're trying to save for retirement too. So it's a delicate balance, and we can help you get there. So we will, in seminar 3, we're going to be talking more about the admission process, how your GPA comes into play in terms of the admission process, and how activities can help balance. If your GPA is not as strong as you might like it to be, the fact that you have a lot of civic, volunteer, sports, and clubs, and a very active student, you might be a student that gets pulled in on not only an academic scholarship, but they might pull you in on a sports scholarship too. So there's all kinds of opportunities for students. It's not just based on GPA and your SAT scores. It is an entire world of information to make a decision, including your college essay. And we'll be talking more about the Common App that you fill out, which is really important the way you fill it out, because a lot of colleges are accepting the Common App now. And so instead of needing to fill out an application for each and every college that you want to apply to, if the college that you're applying to accepts the Common App, you just send it to them. And you might be sending that out to 10 or more different colleges, depending on how many you're interested in. In seminar 4, we're going to be looking at financial aid and how that works with the FAFSA form and the CSS profile, how that comes into play. What kind of scholarships are out there that maybe your school doesn't know about? And that process of transitioning to college, which is a big process. Somewhere in my house, I have the famous family list of what to bring to college. So if you're wondering what you're going to need when you go there and you need a checklist, we're going to give that to you as well. So I wanted everyone to be able to take a little bit of a break before we go into the SAT tips. And I wanted to just open up the floor for the next 5 minutes at least before you take a break to see if there's any questions in particular that people want to have answered or ask. Okay, so seeing no questions, I'm just going to give everyone a little screen break, take a minute to stand up, walk around. I'm going to have some water myself. So I'm just going to go off camera for just a moment, have some water, and I'll be right back with you. Nothing like cold water after you've been talking for 20 minutes. Is everyone feeling like they're ready to move forward?
Hi, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah. So you mentioned about the multiple seminars, right? Seminar 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to share that seminars after today's meeting? Or?
Yes. What's going to happen is those seminars are going to roll out at this time on Saturdays, I believe, from 12 to 1 over the next few weeks. So looking at my calendar here, I have this particular one being our first open house that everyone's invited to. And then next week, if you're interested in the next seminar, it'll be offered next Saturday from 12 to 1. And it'll continue to be offered until the end of the month. And that should take us, let me take a look at the calendar here. So seminar 2, 3, and 4, yes, we'll finish up, we'll do seminar 2 on June 12th, seminar 3 on June 19th, and seminar 4 on June 26th. That is the plan. And then the following week will be the 4th of July holiday, and many people, including myself, will be away for that holiday in the US. And then we'll be back in action here to help you out with the next thing that's needed. So let me see here, Lisa. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, you're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. So just something that has nothing to do with this seminar, but I think is quite interesting is I teach students from all over the world, Canada, New Zealand, India, United States, all different states in the United States, South America, Europe. So it's interesting that in the United States, we typically have school for 40 weeks a year. In New Zealand, for instance, they have school all year round. So I'm curious, people that we have online with us today, if you'd be willing to share what your school calendar looks like for your child and currently, and what you'd like your school calendar to look like, if you don't mind sharing. Okay, I guess no one wanted to share about how long their school calendar is. Okay, so all right, well, let's move into the next thing, and we will move from there. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So my school usually has around 37 weeks, including summer holidays and winter and Thanksgiving holidays.
Okay, so you're 37 weeks, but it goes all year with different holiday breaks and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Interesting. So if you go to school during the summer, is it hot at school? Is there air conditioning? I think that's I'm just curious, like what kind of arrangements people have
I
at
don't
school.
go to school in summer.
Hmm?
I don't go to school in summer.
Okay, so the summer's the whole break.
Yeah. And
Okay,
same with winter and Thanksgiving.
all right, gotcha. All right. Well, thank you for sharing. I'm happy that someone was willing to share. I don't bite, so you guys can feel free to answer questions. So we're going to roll into the SAT open house SAT tips. I'm going to let you know a little bit about how SAT works, the format of it, and give you some tips. So the very first section of the SAT is the reading section. There's 52 questions and 5 passages, and it's all multiple choice. The content of the reading portion this is just a couple of things like central ideas and textual evidence, but there's really quite a few other things that in terms of the breakdown, but this is just a couple of examples. Rhetoric is in there, which is analyzing word choice or the author's point of view. Synthesis and analyzing multiple texts and quantitative information. And the scoring is based on a score value of 200 to 899. However, your reading test score is looked at in terms of a scaling score of 10 to 40. And then it gets converted over to this in this algorithm that SAT uses. Okay. So in section 2, it's the writing and language format of the test. And that section of the test has 44 questions and 4 passages. And that,
Excuse me.
yeah.
Can you go? Do you mind going back to the first one for a second? I just want to write something down.
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
No problem at all.
Thank you. I'm good.
You're good? Okay, great. Yeah. There's a lot more under information, ideas, rhetoric, and synthesis. And when you come to a full SAT open house, we break that down into all the different sections, how many of each question. When we come and do SAT with us, we break it down to let you know how many of each type of question you're going to get, and also so that you can recognize when that question is appearing. You'll be able to say, oh, that's a question that I need to tackle with point of view. That's a question that's looking for the central idea. That's a question that's looking for evidence, and so on and so forth. So, and then the writing section is 44 questions, 4 passages, and it's all also a multiple choice. You'll be looking at needing to do the standard English conventions, which include your sentence structure, your punctuation. This is a place where students can really excel, assuming that they've had a review of grammar with an SAT program. Students typically do not do well on this section without adequate preparation because English grammar seems to be something that's gone by the wayside in school. I see essays from students and they are riddled with all kinds of errors and spelling, punctuation, you name it. So we talk about this, and that will help you to strengthen your essay as well. I didn't put this in the slideshow today, but if you're planning on making a college essay, this program right here will help you to develop that college essay and develop it even further. We get into telling you for college essays, you're going to practice doing college essays the SAT way, and you'll be graded on those. And after we look at them, you'll be able to tell what kind of a score you're going to get out of 6 in terms of your scoring, like an SAT would score your essay. All righty, so same scoring based system where it's 10 through 40 and 200 through 89 for writing and language. Sections 3 and 4 are math. One of them is calculator. One of them is no calculator. You take the no calculator section first, and then you take the calculator section. It breaks down into Algebra 1, problem solving and data analysis, advanced math, some geometry, but there's no algorithms. There are some other Algebra 2 topics along with some trigonometry, but SAT recognizes that not every student has taken their advanced math course yet until senior year sometimes. Yes. Lisa,
Lacia,
Lacia, go ahead.
would we need to memorize any formulas for this, or are they going to provide it for us?
Your formulas are provided, but here's the thing. The formulas are provided when you're given your SAT exam. However, they're on the first page. So if I were you, I wouldn't want to be flipping back and forth, right? For those formulas every time you needed one. And by the time you're done prepping for SAT, you should be able to recognize what kind of formula you're going to need. I think the best way to deal with formulas is to actually be able to apply the formula. And once you can start to recognize what you're going to need to answer that question, you'll know exactly what formula to use. And I don't find memorization to be a good way to learn mathematics in terms of formulas, because it doesn't stick in your head. Looking at, for instance, volume equals pi r squared times height. Okay, that's a pretty easy formula to memorize, for instance, but unless you know how to apply those letters to what you're seeing, it's not going to help you. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, how is the test laid out? We're very fortunate with the math portion because unlike the reading and the English portion, the math portion gets steadily more difficult. As you can see, within the multiple choice section, in section 3, you start out with the first 4 questions being relatively easy, and then medium difficulty, and then more and more difficult. And then at the end, you have some grid-in questions as well that are easy, medium, and difficult. Okay, these are the no calculator allowed questions. Okay, and then in section 4 is a calculator is allowed It will make sense to use a calculator for maybe a handful of questions. But after you take the SAT course, you should be able to do all of the calculator allowed questions without a calculator. Okay, the only reason you would actually use the calculator is to come up with a calculation just that makes sense to use the calculator to make things a little faster, right? But sometimes it's faster to just write it out and do the steps. And we'll talk about that when you have your program. So again, but they're laid out in easy, medium, hard. I have myself done every single one of these questions without a calculator, so I guarantee you can do them without a calculator. There are a couple that it's definitely more helpful to have a calculator. Otherwise, you'd have to use some estimation to come up with your answer. And then the grid-ins, of course, are also easy, medium, and difficult. You notice how the calculator section, the questions are designed to be a little bit more difficult. So they're letting you use the calculator. You're getting 55 minutes, but there's also 38 questions. So there's almost double the questions, okay? So they consider that in terms of the time when they give you more time. Okay, so what are some good strategies for SAT in general? What are some of the great strategies that you can use? Yes, Jasari, is that how you say your name?
Oh, it's actually Jayshree, but
Okay,
if I finish my math portion early, can I go back and finish my reading portion?
no.
Why
No.
not?
Because the way it works when it's a proctored exam is you have a certain amount of time for each one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you can get extended time if you know that with reading in English, you're going to need extra time. You can request for extended time through SAT, and it's significantly longer. But if you got that, you'd get extended time for all of the subjects. But it's only in certain circumstances, and you have to fill out some special paperwork to get approved for that. But I've had students that do get approved for extended time. And one of those things is anxiety. So if you're anxiety-ridden test taker, you definitely want to look into getting extended time for your SAT. I find it very helpful.
Oh, okay, thank
You're welcome. And Jana?
Is there a specific order that we take the subject test, or can we do like math first, then reading?
There's a specific order. You take reading first,
Okay.
then the writing, then you take the non-calculator portion, and then the calculator portion. And the fifth part of the test is essay writing. And that's optional though.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So you'll notice that what the biggest strategy on here, read and reread the problems carefully. Don't rush the reading, use the two-pass approach. Okay, two-pass approach says read through the first time, read it through again. The first time you read it through, you're going to answer all the questions you can, right? You will mark the questions in your booklet, not on your answer key, but in your booklet, okay? Then you'll make a second pass and answer the rest of them in your booklet. Then you'll go in and fill in the blanks because you don't want your bubble sheet mixed up by accidentally filling in where you left something blank. That's why this specifically says, do not leave answers blank. Do you guys have more questions? Your hands are still up, or those old hands? Old hands, new hands. Okay. Did you have another question, Jasari? No? Okay. Identify what the problem's asking and use the process of elimination. Okay, you're going to look at the questions, especially in the reading. One question is going to be ridiculous. It's going to be like an extreme answer, and you're reading it, you're like, wow, that looks like a really good answer. But it has a whole bunch of information in the answer that wasn't really in the text. That would be an example of too extreme. Then you might see an answer that really has too narrow of an explanation, and you don't want to select that one. So it always comes down to two, and you select the best one from there. Just sorry, you still have a question? Your hand's up. No? Old hand? Okay. So also write in the test booklet. Let me say that again. Write in the test booklet. Don't erase your bubble sheet, and don't erase anything that you write in the test booklet, right? You can scribble all over your test booklet as much as you want. Okay, take advantage of that. Again, don't leave any problem blank. People always ask, oh, do they sometimes put irrelevant information in the problem? Sometimes they might say something like, Mary was walking home from school, and school is 18 kilometers and from her house. Well, that would be important information, because if it was a distance problem and they're asking you how long it takes her or the rate at which she's walking, that might be important. But if they say something like, well, Mary's walking from school and Mary's wearing a yellow shirt today and blue pants, and that's not going to matter unless we're talking about a probability question where they'll say, oh, Mary has 5 outfits. She has 3 yellow shirts, 4 blue pairs of pants, and 6 different colored pairs of socks. And they're asking you to pair up outfits, and how many outfits, different outfits can she wear? That might be different. Okay. Just sorry, your hand is still up. Do you still have a question or no? Okay. So pace yourself. It's approximately 1 minute per problem on the section, and 1.5 minutes per problem on section 4. So section 3, the non-calculator section, takes about 1 minute per problem, but the calculator section takes about 1.5 minutes. So just focus on one question at a time, please. All right. All right. And know the rules for the grid-ins. Okay, know the rules for the grid-ins. Always grid in from the left. Okay, which is weird because although we write from right to left, I guess we're always taught about decimals. It's drilled into our heads that we always start from the right and work to the left. So, but in SAT, you need to grid in from the left. So there'll never be a grid in answer with a negative number for an answer. And mixed numbers can be gridded in as an improper fraction or a decimal, but of course not as 1.5. You could put 1.5 for the decimal, but you're not going to put grid in 1 and then grid in 1 again and then 2. Okay. But decimals have to be gridded in with a high degree of accuracy. So these, for example, this particular fraction, 2/3 would be acceptable in any of these forms. Okay. So look for a known relationship and plug in given values and solve for the missing value. This will save you so much time, especially if you're not quite sure how to go about solving for a variable. You can always plug in one of the values that are given and solve from there. Time saver. So you should be able to identify the different skills that you will need to complete your SAT. Well, you're going to need to do factoring and simplifying and equation solving. Make this simplifying, I can't emphasize it enough. Often they will put an answer in the answer key that is not simplified to see if you'll select it. So of course, simplify, make sure you know what that definition means. it means that you can no longer divide that fraction, if it's a fraction, any further, right? You've gone to the end of the road, okay? You can always work backwards. So that means that you take one of the answers that are given, meaning you plug in the answer choice into the problem. And that's sometimes a big time saver to work backwards in solving the problem. Many of the problems can be solved that way by choosing your own number also. So you could choose a number of like -3, -2, -1, or 1, 2, or 3, plug that into the variable, and you can solve them from there using your own variables. That's a big thing on the SAT that's not on any other exam that I've ever seen, but one special just for the SATs. Check your work and work quickly, please. And remember that calculators follow a strict order of operations, which means that when you put in multiple numbers and you're adding multiple numbers or subtracting multiple numbers or dividing or multiplying, please use those parentheses. Without parentheses, your answer will be incorrect. So as part of the structure to SATs, we do take the time to go over using your calculator and give you some examples that would be wrong, putting them into your calculator a certain way. So we give you some tips on how to enter things into your calculator correctly. And of course, pi can be used on your calculator as pi, as 3.14, or as 22/7. Each one of these can come in handy depending on what kind of problem it is. And please make sure that you're looking to see how they want the answer given. Do they want you to answer in terms of pi with just the symbol? That'll make a difference on how you're figuring it out. Or are they allowing you to use 3.14 or 22/7 as part of your answer? And last but not least, I want to thank you for taking time to invest in your child's future. And for those of you that are students, thank you for your time coming today to invest in your own future and learning something about college and college planning and SATs. And I see I have a question from Ayana, right? Did I say it right, Ayana?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What's the best way to prepare for the SAT, like especially the reading part?
That's a good question. Well, the SAT program definitely prepares you for it. And the reason it does is because what if you have not done a lot of classical reading, it really depends on your education. If you have had a lot of opportunity to do reading in terms of all different kinds of literature, remember the SAT readings cover science topics. You might be reading about bats, and you might be reading about social studies, history, literature, history topics. So if you're not a diverse reader, it's going to be important, all the more important for you to take the course, because we will give you strategies to find the evidence within the text. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Ranja, did I say it correctly?
It's Ranga.
Ranga. Okay, go ahead.
So I have two questions. One is about the subject SAT. Do you have any information about the subject SAT? And my second question is, what is the best time? How many attempts can student take for SAT? Like, can they start attempting SAT from 8th grade? Or
No, they would typically take a PSAT first if they're going to take it that young. The SAT is usually given at school. The PSATs are usually given sophomore year in the United States, and the junior year for SAT. And you can continue to take the SAT until you leave your senior year. So you can continue taking it as often as it's offered. I believe that it's offered, don't quote me on this, but I believe that it's offered about 5 times a year. So you have many opportunities to take it. As far as the subject exam tests go, those are typically offered in the spring. So I don't have any information on those. I do have the text for SAT 1 and SAT 2 in terms of the mathematics, because to be honest, the mathematics in SAT 1 and SAT 2 is definitely more in depth than the traditional SAT exam, because the traditional exam is a generality of all different kinds of math, where the SAT 1 and SAT 2 is definitely more rigorous. So you're using those to kind of push through. And if you're taking those exams, you're probably going to be able to take what we call the CLEP exams and in college, and be able to you would take that exam. You would still pay for the credits if you get a 4 or higher. Typically, colleges only accept exams on the subject exams if they're a 4 or higher. Some schools do accept a 3, but most schools will only take a 4 or a 5. So if you score a 4 or 5 on those AP exams and the subject exams, AP exams, then you don't have to take that class in college. You would still have to pay for the credits, but you don't have to sit for the course. So it allows you to accelerate a lot further. Do I have more questions? Then I answer your questions.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. More
I
questions?
have a question.
Okay.
So actually, I have 2 questions. First one is, while you are talking about the strategies while taking a SAT exam, you mentioned to work from the end, like putting a number in a variable and work from there. Can you explain on that again?
Oh, to do back solving?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, so for instance, sometimes you cannot solve the problem that the SAT gives you from the information that is given. So you look at answers A, B, C, or D, and you're going to plug that in as your answer and work backwards from there. So practicing different kinds of problems where you have to back solve, where you have the answer, but you don't have the equation yet. So they'll often give you a written question. Let's see if I can, a back solving question.
I think I got it. If it is a multiple choice type of a question, then we can plug in one of the choice and try
Right.
to.
Right.
Okay, got it.
So that becomes a time saver
Okay,
if you can back solve.
yeah.
And
And sorry, go ahead.
nope, I'm done.
Okay, and the second one is, if suppose I'm taking SAT for 2 times, how do you think we can space out the second test, like a time gap?
So typically if a student takes it at the end of the summer, beginning November is usually like end of October, beginning of November. Like I can publish the schedule so that you know what it is. I could probably actually look it up now if you wanted it looked up now. But if you go to the College Board website, they'll tell you when they're scheduling the next exams, and then you'll know when they're coming and when they're spaced apart. They're usually about 90 days-ish apart. So, but it really depends on your student. If you're not seeing the kind of score on your practice exams that you want, you can always wait for another 3 months to practice that particular one. It's usually one particular thing that's throwing people off. The things that students have the most trouble with are typically the word-based problems and functions. The rest of the exam is not that difficult. There's not a lot of trigonometry in it at all. There's very little geometry. There's a lot of geometry in the ACT.
So what I understand is like it would be better if we take, suppose I'm taking on in summer, then if my score is not up to what I expected, then I can take in next schedule.
Yes, you can. Mm-hmm.
Or
Yep.
like, can we take this summer, like in October or somewhere around that? Then again, we can wait till next October and take the test, which is advisable.
I wouldn't wait a whole year before you take it again. The reason being, if you're, it depends on how old you are. If you're a junior, once you're a junior, you're starting to run out of time to get the score that you want, because the SAT is going to grab the score that you're doing the best on. Right? So, but once you graduate, you've pretty much run out of time. So you want to make sure that you get that out of the way in your junior year. You don't really want to have to take that SAT in your senior year, because the fall of senior year, you're starting to really apply to colleges. You're hoping to get early acceptance and so on and so forth. You're so involved in those college essays and applying to colleges, you don't want to have to bother or worry about SATs. Does that answer
Got
your
it.
question? Okay. Yes. Next question.
Oh, I have a question.
Mhm.
Some colleges aren't accepting SATs, so what other test, like what other criterias would you use to get into good colleges?
So if the colleges are not taking SATs, they're going to be giving you a placement test when you go in there. So irregardless of the fact that they're not taking an SAT, if you can score well on, take a course, an SAT course, and score well on the practice exams, you can pretty much guarantee that whatever that college gives you for a placement exam, you're going to do well on.
Okay.
You can also take a practice ACT exam. And the reason why I say that is there's two things. One, in terms of the acceptance rate, there's like two different things that you're talking about. One, am I going to be ready for college level work? Of course, you need to, if they're not taking the SATs and you're wondering how you're going to do on that placement exam that they're going to give, you can take both SAT and ACT, not pay for them, but take a proctored exam with a school like ISA, where we give those proctored exams almost every weekend, right? With our course, students can come in and take the course, and then you'll have an idea of how you're going to do. The other thing is, this other separate thing is that you're going to look at your transcript and see what your transcript's going to look like from high school, how many activities you've done, what sports and clubs and volunteer and civic activities that you've done, and how involved you are in school, in
Okay.
addition to your GPA.
When
So
you said
that's two separate things.
when you said practice test, do you mean the PSAT?
No, the PSAT is taken usually sophomore year. When I say practice test, I mean that when we do when ISA does the SAT course, we offer our students every Sunday to come in. First, we give you a pre-assessment every time before the chapter comes. When we finish the chapter, we give you a post-assessment. And then on Sundays, we offer proctored SAT exams. They are not official SAT exams, but we have all of the keys for there's 10 different SAT exams, and we give them under a proctored timed environment. Okay. So instead of just practicing them at home under the time constraints, we give you those proctored tests on a Sunday as part of the program, so that you can gauge where you are. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I want to encourage everyone to sign up for the next seminar and sign up for our next SAT course coming up in a couple of weeks. And when you sign up for the SAT course and sign up to come with us, you will be given a special bonus, and that bonus will be a packet of theory for SAT, which is 101 SAT math questions. It is all the theory behind every question that you'll answer on the SAT exam. Thank you for coming today, and I hope everyone has a blessed day, and namaste to everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. Bye now.